Yo, yo.
Robin's nose is making an appearance for episode 7.
There we go. We need more Rob. There we go. That's going to be a
He's
good
just sitting
one.
here staring at me.
Awesome.
Oh.
Holy crap.
About to hit me.
Well, we saw someone else hit you, it looks like, in your eye. So, Rob's just trying to match you out.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
I feel like I just bruise so easily, honestly. Like, all down my arm. This is from the cage, I'm assuming. I really don't know what happened. Just, I noticed I had a lot of bruises one day, and then it just kept on getting worse. And then sparring Tuesday, and it's not even like we go hard. Like, we flow, we get good MMA rounds. It's like, I don't even know how it happened, honestly.
I love it. Oh, my goodness. So much to get into. Podcast 7, Mic Cuddles, Gillian the Savage Robertson. I'm Dave Van Auken. We'll definitely jump a lot into UFC 274. Some really big stuff, like what the hell happened to Rose Namajunas. We got a Michael Chandler knockout, cornerman stuff. One of the greatest performances by Charles Oliveira, and so much more. Rob, what are you doing? Oh my goodness. First icebreaker question for me. This is so funny because, so I talked to you last time. We were at the PFL out there in Arlington, Texas, and we're doing media scrums, post-fight interviews, post-fight scrums, just a ton of content. What was the worst question a media member ever asked you at like a UFC event? It could be a post-fight interview, a scrum. What was it like? Holy crap, that was the worst question I've ever was asked.
I'm not really, like, post-fight, honestly, like, my brain is just running like 200 miles a minute. So I don't even know what you say, and I don't know how I respond until I watch the video after. Like, it's just so that there's no more raw reaction than like post-fight. I feel like it's just So I mean, you could ask me anything, like post-fight. I don't really know. I don't think I've gotten any too bad. It's just like you always get the basic ones constantly, you know?
Yeah.
Just like, I feel like I've told the story of like how I've got my nickname and where I started and all that probably like 700 times now.
Gosh, yeah, it's gotta be crazy. And like also too, sometimes I don't know if it's for the UFC it's different or whatever, but like we're all in one room, so there's like 14 of us, so we can hear the questions to the right and to the left of us. We're all in the same room, and like I would be question 5, and someone at question 9 would ask the same question. It's like, dude. Like we're in the same room. Like, how can you ask the same question? You don't have like a backup question or a backup plan or something spontaneous. It's just pretty wild. And it feels like it's funny. I don't know if you feel the same way. As like, if you kind of ask them a question about like them or something like they got going on or a family member or something like different, like off ball question, seems like they do get into it. Cause you're right. Like, how many times can you ask about Kayla Harrison in her training camp? Like, how is it at American Top Team, Kayla? It's like, dude, like, say something different to Kayla Harrison. It's wild.
Exactly. And like that, I feel like that's the most annoying part of it all is just having to answer the exact same question 40 times in a row. And it's like pre-fight, you're doing multiple interviews all week, and it's just constant, the same question over and over. Like this one, he's relentless right now.
Like, do you still get the questions of like, hey, Jill, what happened with American Top Team? Are you still there? Do you still get those, or that's kind of ancient?
No, people still think I'm at American Top Team. Actually, I usually get questions about like, oh, how it is. They're like, oh, being at one of the biggest gyms in the world, how do you feel? I'm like, I haven't been there in like 3 years, so.
That's been a minute. That's been a minute.
Yeah, so I guess the media hasn't got caught up on that.
It's amazing how sometimes we'll maybe get into a bad performance we saw Saturday night with Rose Namajunas, and we'll get into that. And there's so many different angles to take that in, and especially with you, like I can't wait to pick your brain about it. But like, of course, even on the prelims or early fight cards, to me, I know how hard it is to even get into the UFC. So every fighter in the UFC is so talented, like the highest level of fighter that you can get to. But there's levels in the UFC. So sometimes one of the weaker fighters on the roster, right? Maybe like I've heard, media members even kind of like, wow, that person shouldn't be there, or that person's not good. And it's like, do you see yourself, or like, do you see the questions that you ask? Like, there's horrible media members. Like, it's so bad. And that's one thing I noticed. And I think you and I talked about it off air. Maybe he was on air about like how Showtime, him and I like got along. Like, it's awesome to have better friendships and connections and like real life conversations with, the top fighters. Some of these guys and girls on the media are horrible. Like there's some horrible media members.
I feel like even like obviously it was something very bad that happened when Priscilla Cachoeira gouged my eye. But the way that the media attacked her about it, I was like, guys, chill. Like, I'm all good. It's not that bad. We can, you don't have to attack her about that much. They're like, she should be cut. She should be this. I'm like, I won the fight. I'm cool. Like, my eye's good. Like, maybe she should be penalized. Like, it definitely was, like, something that was messed up. But, like, they just completely, like, went for the throat. Like,
they went for it. Talking about going for it or maybe not going for it. All right, so we kind of hinted at it. Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza. I think you and I are both huge Rose fans. We both thought Rose Namajunas was going to win that fight. The only way was Carla to kind of ground and pound and wrestle and just kind of dominate the fight. It's crazy. She didn't even do that. She didn't dominate the fight. Just Rose just had this mental lapse or unable to pull the trigger in so many different ways. And yeah, it's kind of being touted about one of the worst mixed martial art fights, especially one of the worst championship fights maybe ever. It's one of those things. Just kind of, picking your brain. What happened? What do you think happened? Where are you at on it? Just a crazy night with Rose and Carla.
So I didn't watch the fights on Saturday night because I'm an old lady. So I woke up on Sunday morning and I watched the whole fight card. But I obviously look at Instagram, see all the results. So I saw Rose saying something about how she thought she won the fight. And so I thought it was going to be a competitive matchup when I went and watched the fight. And like my mind was so 100% blown. Like honestly, all three of the Chandler Ferguson, the Rose Namajunas, and the Gaethje Oliveira. I knew the results going in and was still absolutely shocked watching every single one of them. I'm like, with Rose and Carla, though, I'm like, it's so frustrating to watch. And I feel like it's what happens when you put a striker with a grappler a lot of times. It's like they're scared to go to the ground, they're scared to commit. But the fact that she wouldn't open up at all was just... Like, even the fact, like, Carla took her down once, Rose got right back up. Carla shot multiple times, Rose defended it easy. Why not open up on your striking now? You know you can defend her takedowns. You know you can get up. Like, there's no threat there. Like, that's Carla's biggest threat. I don't even think, like, Carla isn't necessarily, like, a skilled submission specialist either. I wouldn't call her, like, great at jiu-jitsu. Her strength is solely her wrestling. So it's like, that her wrestling, like, you can handle her wrestling. So what's the threat? Like, just fucking go.
Yeah. So many with that. I'm so happy you kind of had that angle because I'm the same way. And to kind of like go double down on that, it's not like you're fighting. I hate when you're at a bar and you see a heavyweight. I remember the Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou fight. And Derek Lewis was winning that fight and beat Francis that night. And people were like, oh, wow, that was a really bad fight. They're like, Derek, why don't you go? For one, he was winning the fight. So two, like Carla was winning the fight. So it was kind of on Rose to take it. Like it's her move. It's her chess move. She's losing. And then also back to my Francis analogy. If you get hit by Francis one time the wrong way, like life altering, changing, out 6 months, TKO, shit happens. Like that's Francis Ngannou. That's why he's the heavyweight champion. Like, no, and I think you'll take like, if Carla gets you, it's like, okay, like you got hit harder in sparring, maybe. It's like, that's not her MO. Like, she's not trying to knock you out. She's like almost trying to use her fist to grapple you. Like, she's just trying to get hold of you sooner or later. It's like, Rose, like, just like go in, like, no hands, like, put your hands behind your back and just go to her. Like, just commit something. It was just so wild to me. Wild.
Yeah, no, the fact that, I don't know, that she was just frozen so much. Like, I said, it's definitely common to see that in a striker versus grappler. Like, you see her with striker versus striker, her versus Weili. She's not scared to open up. She's going in there and fighting her fight because she knows the takedown isn't as big of a threat. But when here, it's like the takedown's the only threat. You definitely have to be more cautious. You can't be like, every time you're offensively striking, that's an opportunity for me to shoot. That's where you're out of position. I can take my shot. You're off balance. So it's like, I get being a little bit more conservative, but to like just too much.
Yeah, just crazy. And then one other thing, so I thought about, and I mentioned there, they, how it's just funny now that people or other media members, when they talk to me, like they mention yourself and they mention Felicia Spencer and stuff like that. So Norma Dumont fought in the card, and like Norma Dumont, like jokingly, I don't never met Norma, never talked to her, probably never will if she ever heard some of the thing. I just like, she's like my least favorite fighter because of the Felicia thing, whatever. So like anytime she fights, like me and Fee go back and forth, we laugh on it. And I'm not gonna lie to you. So Carla wins the title. I was like, my first thought was like, I can't believe Rose just did not show up. Like, it's unbelievable. My second thought, I swear to you, my second thought watching it live at 12:30 at night was like, you think Gillian can make 115? You think Gillian can cut 10 pounds? Because, like, dude, I see a sub. I see a second, third round sub to Carla. Do you think that at all? Does that mind like, wait, she's the champ? Like, that Valentina's pretty good at 125.
Honestly, like, it's definitely these last couple months, it's been a huge thought in my mind because I don't know. Like when I was training at ATT more, I feel like I was just doing more strength conditioning. I don't know. I was walking a lot bigger than I am now. I was walking around 140, 145. So it's like I wasn't so undersized in the 125 division. I still don't care that I'm undersized at all. Like the fact that I'm smaller just means I have less weight to cut. Like I'm cool with that. 10 pounds isn't gonna make you better than me. So it's like that's never been a mindset of mine. Like, oh, I need to cut down because I'll be stronger than these girls. But it's just I know that it's like the competition. I know I can handle those girls. I know that obviously it is a better size for me. Ideally, I honestly do fit in the 115 division. Like the UFC did
with the mask and you running on the bike and everything, right?
Yeah, well, it was a bone density scan. They laid me down, and I had to sit there and just, like, lay down on a table for, like, 10 minutes. So they just scanned my body multiple times, and they determined, like, my level of, like, lean body mass and body fat and everything. Like, I remember saying my bones weighed, like, 8 pounds. Just, like, it breaks down everything. Wow. And it broke down that I am too small for the 125 division, essentially, and I do ideally fit. I'm in the top percentile of the 115 division. So essentially, it would be a hard cut, but I would be more ideal fitting in the 115 division according to the UFC PI standards.
Right. So, let's just be blunt about it. Does having a dominant champion like Valentina, who's been there, who's fighting literally in 3 weeks against someone that you already fought, right, with Santos, and if she beats Santos, and it's just Valentina you can argue is like starting to become one of the most dominant champions there are in any weight class. And now 115, which is still, it's insane. You got Weili, you have Ioana, you got so many other. We'll talk about another matchup in 115 coming up in July too in a second with both of your friends. But just seeing Carla as the champion and I don't know. This is going to come off wrong. She's not a top champion of champions, if that makes sense. Like Volkanovski's dominant, Usman's amazing. Francis has been really good in the heavyweight class. Like Carla is assumed to be an underdog if it is against Weili or Ioana next. So does that kind of help you be like, man, maybe I should kind of go for this?
I guess yes and no. It doesn't really I'm down for the challenge. Like, I know Valentina's the real challenge, so it's like that's where I want to be. I want to be noted as the best in the world. But if I could be noted as the best in the world at 115 and 25, then that'd be some shit, You
should. Yes, that would. One last kind of question in that one fight. We went 15 minutes almost on Rose, and it's a great talking point. But, of course, the whole Pat Barry and being a significant other was in the corner. And I don't know how much you watched the fight or listened to the corner. He was just like, Pat was like, I'm cool with this. Like, this is hey, this is what we want. Even the third round, pushing fourth round, it's like, all right, Rose, you're doing good. You're not letting her wrestle. And then Trevor was starting to the first round or two, he was okay with it. But even he was starting to come on, Rose, open up now. When she does shoot and she misses she's doing, you got to go a little bit. Just talk to me about the intimacy of the corner and how important it is. And more than anything, I would assume Dean's been in every single of your UFC fight corners. How much do you need him to say, hey, G, like we're down 0-2, or hey, it might be 1-on-1, but we're not sure. So you maybe got to get a finish here. Like, how fucking important is it for them just to be so straight with you? Like, you got to hear what you got to hear.
It's definitely important for them to be straight with you, but I think, like, I haven't had Dean in all my UFC fight corners. I've actually, Kayla
K-Rock?
K-Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely forgot her last name for a second there.
Rocco.
Kayla Rocco. Yeah. Kayla Rocco, amateur fighter, never cornered a fighter in her life, cornered me for my fourth UFC fight. Okay. I'm like, for me, it doesn't matter. I need somebody to warm me up. I need somebody that's going to get me ready for that moment. But once that cage door closes, it's just me and her. And I feel like too many fighters are too reliant on that corner. Okay. You need to be able to make those decisions on your own. You know, like you have to have some, like Rose had to know in that fight that she wasn't winning it. I'm like, there's no decision that I've ever, like, anytime there's been a decision in the fight, you see me clapping for the other girl already because I know she won. I'm not sitting there with my hand raised because I'm going to be real with myself. And I'm going to, like, in that moment, you have to be real with yourself. You have to be able to make those decisions at a quick pace. I'm like, that's what makes championship fighters, is being able to make those split-second decisions and change up your game plan. And it's the fight IQ that really matters. And you don't develop that if your corner is going to, like, you see so many corners like 1-2, 1-2-3. Jab, slip, like whatever. They're screaming everything at you. It's like you're never going to develop your own ability to think. And that's such, like, I feel like that's the biggest element of the fight game. And that's why I win fights is, like, I'm not faster than anybody, but the speed that I think at in the cage is faster than most people. So I'm making smarter decisions at a faster pace, and I'm beating you to the point where it's like so many people. It's not about like physical speed for me.
Yeah, no, that's fucking awesome. That's dope. That makes sense too. It really does. Talking about speed, how about Michael Chandler's foot to Tony Ferguson's head? Like, so crazy, and how it's so wild. And I thought about this, and like, I kind of want to make a whole video about it. It's wild how the fight game, there's no like good job, almost in a way. There's no like, oh, you maybe got close to winning. There's like, it's so cold blooded. Like, you're amazing and you won, or you're awful and you lost. Like, there's just no middle. Tony, to me, beat Chandler in the first round. Like, he looked fucking good. And I had Chandler winning. I think we talked about this. Like, we thought Chandler was going to run right through Tony Ferg. And Ferguson beat him in the first round, dropped him, looked good, looked kind of old school Tony. And then 10 seconds in the second round, that front kick, and it was like, holy shit. Like, insane.
Okay, so like I said, I knew the result going in. So watching Tony's first round, I was just so happy to see at least that, like, he rocked him. He was looking good. Like, the second they hit the floor, he was throwing elbows, like, just constantly attacking. I was like, Tony looked fucking good that first round. And then, like, my heart dropped. And like I said, I knew what was going to happen. And still watching it live just was like, it was like, I wanted to cry watching that. It's like seeing that happen to Ferguson. That's just it. You don't, like, obviously there's shit like that happens in the sport and it's cool and whatever, but like, you don't want to see like anything serious actually happen. So it's like, that was rough to watch.
It was, and like, especially a couple things, like how he fell was a bad way to fall. Like, he really kind of fell face first and kind of in a weird, wasn't like a flat, like a timber fall. It was a weird angle. So that was a little scary. And then like two, like, you know, he went numb, you know, and it was just weird. And like, and then the UFC didn't show him for a while. It was like a minute or 2 minutes. You're like, okay, like, you know, Chandler, like, dude, I know he's excited. He's like doing the backflip thing. I'm like, in a weird, I'm watching it. I'm like, oh my God, what did we just see? But I'm like, okay, UFC, like, show me Tony, like, show me that he's up, like, show me he's that. And it's like, I don't know. It's one of those things. And I never want to tell another human being what to do with their life and how to live their life. But like, that's one of those, like, dude, you've had this amazing, long, great career, one of the best runs in lightweight history on that win streak. And now I think it's 4 in a row, maybe 5. I think it's 4 in a row. And just how to, and to lose like that, to get just knocked out cold, that's tough. Like, that's tough. Like, you know, I would assume we won't see Tony at least for the rest of the year. And then to see like his next fight on, you know, I heard like, you know, they can't, like, the UFC can't put Tony against, you know, Chandlers and, you know, whatever, Darushas and Gaethjes. Like, how about like Ferguson versus Cerrone and Ferguson versus, you know, Lozon? I even heard a fun one, like even Tony Ferg against Patty. Like, that would be kind of cool because, like, we all think as much as like he's huge for the like the division in the sport, Patty, like his level, like his MMA level isn't top 5, not top 10. Like, he's just more of a fun show right now, and it's like, I don't know, it's tough. Like, I like the next move for Tony's tough.
Yeah, I feel like Tony just competed at such a high level for so long, and even like I like recently I looked at it like how old he was, and I was like surprised by that, even like to see that he is up there. I guess, you know, like because you look at him with the Justin Gaethjes and with the Michael Chandlers, not with the Cerrones.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's just, I feel like he was just so competitive at such an old age until recently, where now he's just like, he definitely needs to take that little bit of a step back. He's becoming more of a veteran in the sport than a competitor necessarily.
Yeah, it's crazy. One more, and then we got to get into this fun fight announcements. I'm so pumped. You know, same thing. We've known about it for a little bit, a little London action. But last one, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. Like, what an insane, great fight. And I'm not a fighter, so I can't talk about it. But like, just throwing it out on my side, if I have a bad day during the day, the kid's loud as shit, or something's happening, a deadline didn't happen for me, or money, whatever, like the fucked up real life issue is. Sometimes you can have like a bad day and just not show up to whatever. If we're doing this, I'm not at the best I can be. I just thought Charles Oliveira going into the fight, not winning, being able to win the championship, and kind of in a weird way, right? Like Justin Gaethje he fought to Habib and lost, and like now this is for the undisputed again, and he wanted that belt so bad. And it's like I almost like just felt for that. I'm like, dude, Gaethje's gonna win because of the psyche of, if he loses this, that's twice he lost for the championship. It's such a stacked division. Who knows if he ever gets back there? And like Oliveira's in this like spot of like, I can't win in a way. I just felt that day, I'm like, wow, like Gaethje's going to get the job done. And then Oliveira to look better than he's ever looked before. I'm like, I'm just blown away. Like he went next level to me. Like I didn't think he could be any higher on my list or rankings or how good I thought he was. And he did. He went to another level. It's crazy.
I just feel like, honestly, Oliver is what I aspire to be as a fighter. Yeah. And that's like, he doesn't necessarily focus on wrestling. Like, he's not an elite wrestler, but he's a fucking threat everywhere. So it's like, if you're on the feet with him, you're in danger. If you're on the ground with him, you're in danger. The fact that he pulled guard was like, he pulled guard and then Gaethje was like, nah, I don't want anything to do with that. Like, that was my favorite moment of the fight right there. I'm like, just the amount of confidence that he has in his finishing ability is like everything I aspire to be.
Yeah, and there's so many things. What you just said there, like he doesn't give a fuck on the ground. Like he's almost too aggressive on the ground because if he feels like if he gets kind of hit back, like he's fine. Like he will get hit, get knocked down, but like we'll be able to get up because Gaethje's not coming down there with him. It's like he's like. And then while he's over aggressive, that means he's getting off great shots. He's landing mega fucking hits on Gaethje. Like he's just throwing beautiful rights. And then did you see that meme? I thought you would love this. Is it's like about like if someone breaks into a house of a BJJ fighter and it's Oliveira on the ground. It's the funniest shit ever. It's like he's just like that's like his most dangerous spot. Like he loves that spot. Like it's crazy.
I just love that. The fact that he's a threat everywhere. Like, no matter where you are in the cage with him, you're in trouble. And, like, that's everything that, like, as a fighter, like, that's all you can ask for.
For sure. All right, we'll wrap up with this. Hannah Goldy, Molly Mcann, huge fight. So, London, 2-3 months ago, we talked about it. I think it was one of the beginning episodes of our pod. It was just, like, such a great environment. It kind of stole the show. It was better than UFC pay-per-views, just the mojo what the crowd brought. And Molly was a big part of it. Spinning back fist knockout. And I know you're friends with Molly. And then when Hannah told me she was fighting her in London, I was like, God damn it. I love it. Because when a long time ago, when I used to play, basketball, I used to love to go to on the road. Like I liked it more being the villain, right? Being kind of like, I love shutting up the crowd more than getting cheered. And there's only certain people like that. And I was like, Hannah, that's a once in a career type of environment that I think she's going to be in because not a lot of fighters have like home field. There's just not a lot of that. And Molly will be cheered outstandingly. And if Hannah gets her on the ground, and I think her jits is so much more sneaky than what people think and realize. I'm so damn excited for this fight.
I'm like, obviously close friends with both those girls, shared the cage with both those girls, had the pleasure of sharing the cage with Molly in her hometown of Liverpool. So I know exactly about walking into the lion's den right there, walking in, getting food the whole time. But both of them, honestly, probably two of the most genuine souls in the UFC. Like, just the nicest people I know. And, like, it was an honor to be able to share the cage with both of them. Hannah Goldy was in my corner in the UFC. Molly was almost in my corner. I got food poisoning the day of the fight, but Molly was supposed to be in my corner. So I'm like, I've almost had both these girls corner me in the UFC too as well. So it's definitely, I want to see them both get their hand raised. I'm looking for a draw. I don't want to see
the old 2028.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait. I'm so excited for that fight. Okay, so I had another question, but you mentioned the corner and you mentioned K-Rock, who, and you're always having this revolving door as a cornerman. So I'm throwing it out there. They got the new Under Armour gear and they got these flip-flops from the Rock. So if you need another cornerman and you need a hype guy the whole week, you know myself.
You know who to call.
You know who to call. Back to the fight. Is it hard to kind of stay away from the fight, if that makes sense? Because you know how it feels to fight Molly in that type of environment. If Hannah goes hey, G, how was it? What did you take from it positively? What did you take back negatively? Are you going to be kind of helping one side or the other, or helping both? Or are you going to kind of close the guys, I love you both. Best woman win. I'm just going to kind of be a fan and stay out of it.
I feel like this is one I got to kind of stay out of in that way. I might train with Hannah a couple times, help her in that way in preparation, but not necessarily game planning. Then give her and be like, oh yeah, you got to look for this or look for that. Because quite frankly, Molly is a very smart girl and she's an evolving fighter. I fought her, it had to be 3 years ago now. She was my first fight out of the Tough House was Molly Mcann. Yeah. So it was a long time ago. So the Molly Mcann that I fought is not going to be the Molly that Hannah fought. And same with Hannah though. It's I fought Hannah and
Island Fights 2016.
I'm and that's a completely different Hannah Goldy than what's going to be stepping in the cage in a couple months. So I'm you never know. Even mentally showing up that night, who's going to show up more? You never know what fighter is going to walk in that cage the better fighter that night. You just depends who has the better game plan and who puts it together better. So may the best woman win, but I'm excited for that one.
No, July 23rd, UFC London. I'm really intrigued to see where they're going to be at on the card. I looked, Aspinall and Curtis is the main. I know Patty's on it, and kind of with the buzz, you would think he would be and then I kind of think Molly and Hannah will be the featured bout. That's where I see it, but you just never know. They might want a main event that is the prelim, or maybe the first fight on the main card. I'm not too sure, but I'm super excited. That's crazy. That's gonna be such a great atmosphere. I'll ask. I was gonna say we're running, but this is just a wild thing, and I know you're not a super sport person, but to me, I'm gonna bring it into MMA. So Tom Brady, right? Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the greatest football player ever. He just signed a deal with Fox. And he's going to be an analyst, what DC is, and who he just got into the Hall of Fame, by the way, which was really cool how they did that. So he just signed a 10-year, $375 million deal to be an analyst and talk about football and be done with this, not play anymore and still make that type of money, which is just bananas. It's unbelievable. If you had to pick any name in the UFC, let's just go in the UFC, to make that bridge crossover, who do you think is going to be that person to really, I know DC's doing it, but I don't know. I feel there needs to be someone to be hey, we're going to make $5 million doing this. Even if it's commentating, analyst, a show, who do you think is going to be that fighter to really bring insane money to kind of that side of it?
Gillian Robertson.
Okay. Have a good day, guys. Subscribe to the podcast. I like it. Stick with it.
One of obviously I'm a little bit biased in my opinion, but one of the best analysts that I've heard talk, Actually, I have two names but one isn't a fighter, one is a past fighter, and both are coaches. That'd be Dean Thomas, my coach, and Trevor Whitman has done some analyst work too. Where I'm like, both, you're just never gonna find a mind like either one of those in the game. There's nobody who breaks down the sport and understands the game like those two. So I'm like, I feel like a mind like that would deserve the big bucks. Would really deserve that kind of money.
Yeah, so crazy. I like the Gillian pick better.
I'm not arguing with that kind of money either, so you can throw it my way.
Geez, $375 million to talk. Man, that's the goal one day. That's the goal. So
exactly.
Crazy.
Robin needs a backyard.
Yes. We're working on it. But cool. Yeah, no. Another one of the books, episode 7. A couple things working, and shoot. You traveling lately in the near future?
As of right now, we're home. I think I'm home for a couple months until we get that fight call. That's all we're looking for right now.
Sounds good. Well, I got something Friday. I'm heading to Biloxi, Mississippi. It's like a boxing card, and Frank Gore's on it. Alan Belcher's on it. Kind of just some other stuff is happening there. So I'm commentating on that. And then, Island Fights is coming up in a couple weeks. We'll see what happens with that. So crazy stuff. The PFL is back in Atlanta in next month. That's crazy. It was so funny. Never know. Maybe it's a Gillian Hotlanta show. You never know.
My first media gig.
You would be better than 80% of that fucking room as soon as you walk in. Oh my goodness. Some of these guys, they're just so bad. Like, hey Kayla, so if Amanda wins and you win, do you think you guys would ever fight? It's like, oh God, it's bad stuff. But all right, have a great day, guys. Gillian the Savage Robertson right there. Dave Van Auken. Oh, that's me. Later.